Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they giving?
Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Monday night, May 16th, 2022. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined on my screen by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. How's it going, pal?
It's going well. Little manic Monday episode. A little bit quiet, a little bit busy, and some major moves being made. I think since we last recorded, the Ravens bring in Mike Davis and Vince Beagle, primo position studs, needle movers, guys that are going to win them a Super Bowl.
The moves that everyone was hoping that they would make. Absolutely, a inside linebacker who has bounced around the league. And probably has been referred to as gritty or a lunch pail guy at some point in his life, and a running back who probably has the same tendencies, but for varying reasons has not been referred as that. So it's been an interesting couple weeks. I don't think we recorded last week. Actually, now that I think about it, I think we got a comment on that. Sorry about that, but that's just kind of how it works out sometimes with us both working full time again. Feels like things are.
We were on other people's shows and stuff too. You guys saw us.
Yeah, we were. So we were probably going to record Thursday night, but kind of impromptu last minute. We went out to a friend of the show, Bobby Strawsett's party that he threw in Harbor East, little live stream thing that he did for the schedule release. Kind of felt like a little bit of a coming out party for him too, and him jumping into the digital space, no longer working for the Hearst outlets in town, WBAL and 98 Rock. So, that was a ton of fun. And if you missed that and you want a little bit of content from us that you maybe missed out on last week, go and check that out. I'm sure that's still live somewhere on his YouTube and Twitter and all that good stuff. And, it was really fun time. We kind of didn't know what to expect going into it. And we were on his live stream for like probably almost an hour. There were times where he was like running around kind of holding court at the party and stuff. And we were just like hosting the live stream, and Cole was there as well. So we it kind of just felt like an episode in and of itself of our show at times. But all credit to Bobby for inviting us out. It was a really fun time. And it's been a good time since the last time we recorded outside of that as well. And it feels like I'm in a good place right now, at least for me.
Love that. Yeah, schedule release comes out. Ravens make a couple small moves. They also tendered Justin Houston. If Justin Houston does not sign with another team by July 31st, sometime in July, then he will not be able to play with any other team aside from the Baltimore Ravens. I think he ultimately ends back. They bring in Mike Davis. They bring in Vince Beagle. And the schedule comes out. So I don't know. Mailbag-wise, I didn't see too much of it. We can talk about the schedule. I guess if we can just get into the mailbag, and if the schedule is not in there, we can touch on that at the end or something if we want a bit as well. So should we just get to it?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to start with Instagram or Twitter?
I can pull up the IG as we get going here. Okay. Had a nice thick one. I think I actually cucked Instagram real badly a couple weeks ago too, and we didn't end up answering any of them, and it was just all for none.
That's how it goes sometimes. I mean, sometimes like people enter a question and then that'll get cucked by another question. So not everyone like actually always gets their questions read. So sorry for if we miss you, but just keep plugging away. Maybe get into the comments section on a live show. You will be addressed at some point.
Certainly. We love you all equally and individually. We hate you all equally. Jack Grimm asks, do you think Bateman has the potential to burst out as a real wide receiver one this season? I sure do. Yeah, I think that's the plan. And hey, maybe even we sort of misunderstood that pick when it happened. Maybe it was a little bit of understanding that Hollywood wasn't super content and wasn't going to be the guy long-term. We didn't know that. We're not inside the building, but maybe that was the plan a little bit. They're like, okay, Hollywood hasn't been super happy here. We don't really have the offense that really leans into his skill set quite enough, running the ball, wanting someone maybe that can do things over the middle. But yeah, we've talked about Bateman 1,000 times on here. I think we both are ready to push all our chips to the middle on him. A guy that when we interviewed him on this podcast said he wanted to add functional strength, something I've said about him 5,000 times. He comes out of that injury last year, definitely looked really crispy, can win at all three levels. You can ask him to go line up against a good cornerback, mano-a-mano with a trips on the other side of the formation in those isolated situations and go win. I think he's a much better vertical threat than given credit for, especially coming out of college. And as a prospect, I guess we didn't quite see enough of those targets, but can do it all, man. He can make guys miss after the catch. I think he'll be probably the best kind of yak wide receiver they've had in quite some time, dating back quite a few years, if healthy. So a lot currently at this point in time riding on him being that guy, being him, so to speak. And I think he definitely is up to the challenge.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they picked this guy with the thought that he would eventually maybe be this no matter what happened. And I think for that like sort of meta conversation, we'll probably address this multiple times tonight, but like I've been thinking more and more about it. And I really think they legit just pick the best player every time, no matter what. Like they said, like DaCosta said, people might not even believe us, but we just pick the best player every time. I think he far and away was that for them when they got him at 27 or 28 in 21. So yeah, I think he was brought in to be that X receiver, to be able to beat guys one-on-one off the line, to not have that luxury of getting moved around, getting put into motion and doing all that kind of stuff. He's going to have to be the guy at this point, and I think they're confident in him to do so, and I think I am as well. So yeah.
Definitely. His release package, maybe the most impressive thing about him, and you can put him on the line, and maybe he does have some of that hair on his chest, a little more so in that sense. You don't need to create for him. He will create for you. A little
Truly
bit more
is a great package, maybe one of the best on the team.
Love to see it. Rugger 25. Is Marquise Goodwin a legitimate and smart replacement for Hollywood? I think in terms of, role and body type and just being a vertical threat with speed, sure. I don't think he's a guy who stayed terribly healthy. I don't think he can really hit through. I don't think he's what Hollywood is so good at is being smart about where to accelerate throughout deep thirds or deep halves and where to split defenders and where he can run away that they can't find an angle to him, deep ball tracking, all that stuff. So I don't think Goodwin has that, but if you want someone that can go run fast, take the top off a little bit, catch a couple deep balls, sure. That's a very, very cheap, the cheapest possible way to replace that role at times, sure.
Yeah, I mean, 62.5 grade here from PFF, and that's not totally everything. I'm not totally sure how they grade their wide receivers. Really unproductive in that Bears offense last year, which, a lot of those guys were. But I don't know, like Darnell Mooney found a way to really pop off and make himself look special. Didn't really see that from Goodwin last year, but he does sort of have that one-trick pony type skill set, really fast guy. And, he's not as wiggly as Hollywood, I don't think, just based upon what, I've seen from him eye test-wise over the years. To your point, they're not exactly the same player, but I mean, yeah, like if that's sort of the route that you want to go, if you don't want to go Julio Jones or whatever, obviously they missed out on Jarvis Landry, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Yeah, why not? I mean, grab him and maybe grab another guy while you're at it. If you're going to go that route, grab him and Will Fuller would be my suggestion. They only have 5 guys right now, so it wouldn't be crazy to add 2 before training camp, and maybe if all goes well, you roll with 7. Not totally sure, but he's a guy I would be keeping tabs on if I were DaCosta.
Sure, he's an NFL player. He's not anything special, but he can fill a role for you. Juan Henry, my boy John. What are your expectations or thoughts on Gus and JK's return for this season? I'm not sure, man. I think we are quick to think of it like it's Madden, and they have the help. Once the season's over, okay, they're going to be back next season, and they're going to be the same player they were. Certainly possible. But running backs typically, the fantasy football perspective of it, typically don't end up being as productive as they were. I would think between the two of them, one of them comes pretty close to being 100% and back to normal. So that's what I'll go with. I think one of the two, I don't know who, this is just me BSing kind of, but I think one of them will be close, if not exactly the same player, and one of them not quite as juicy, not quite as confident or whatever. It's hard to come back from that and be in a position where you are cutting violently over and over and over again. Both fantastic athletes, both physical specimens. JK has dealt with this before, I think in the other knee in high school, if I'm not mistaken. So he knows the grind, he knows the process. Feels like those guys are definitely hungry, all that cliche stuff we can say about them, but I don't know. I think one of them comes back at least, and I'm not sure we see both of them back to form.
Yeah, it feels like the NFL law of doubles, right? Like one thing is going to happen, and then the other thing, reaction, the opposite is going to happen. You pick one tight end early, and then you pick another one a little bit later. The other one works out. The first one doesn't necessarily work out. We've seen that happen. We've seen it happen with guys getting injured at the same position. And yeah, kind of feels like you're right on the money with that. Obviously, you would prefer they both come back really healthy, but I mean, even the team's actions don't necessarily speak to their confidence in that. They bring in, or I don't know if they had Gordon in for a visit, Melvin Gordon, but there was his agent trying to drum some stuff up and trying to leak that they were interested in him. They were interested in him at their veteran minimum price that they had. They don't sign him. They sign Mike Davis. They draft Tyler Beatty. Like they're gearing up for the possibility that they're going to have to go without these guys for a little bit. So
yeah, they made sure they had some cheap insurance. They sign a vet minimum and draft a running back late. So hopefully they're in a good spot. I don't know what your name is. Does the drafting of punter mean bye-bye Cook? Worried about the holder for Tuck? Cook is definitely gone. I mean, he's probably ready to retire. Been a Raven for so long. I think he has played the most games of any Raven ever. He's done. So I think definitely yes. Worried about the holder. I've heard just interviews with Jordan Stout. And again, I can go way too deep into punter. And I feel like I do love specialists in some way where I also hate them. But I like to look them up, draft season, whatever. And it did stand out well ahead of the Ravens drafting him how much Stout talked about kickoff duties and how seriously he takes his job as a holder. At the same time, I don't know. I think Cook, this is, loose. I feel like maybe some people would say the same thing. I feel like he's one of the best holders ever. I feel like he is truly so good, truly can turn a bad snap into perfection so often, and they are so confident in doing it. So yeah, I think there will be a drop-off to some degree. Cook is so good at that. So good at that. So how much of a drop-off? I don't think it's a lot, but I think there will be some drop-off. Maybe we see Tucker turn down to a 88% kicker from beyond 40 yards or something. I don't know. But definitely think there'll be a little something, but Stout seems to take it pretty seriously. He's got a little golden boy to him and wants to be, flashy. I think we've talked about this. Him and Tucker will have a nice rapport, it feels like, and a new dichotomy from old man Nebraska four-wheeler driving Sam Cook into, Flowside and King of the Broshin coming in, Jordan Stout out of Penn State, fresh from Nittany Happy Valley, baby.
Yeah, those two guys are just going to be absolutely tearing up the scene together, aren't they? But yeah, on a more serious note, I mean, there probably is going to be a drop-off at holder. It's not just there's a spectrum to it. It's not just you either Tony Romo it or it's perfect every time. There's probably certain nuances to where Tucker is so dialed in with the way Cook is used to doing it that even Tucker probably doesn't know what the differences are, but they're going to be there. So that's sort of where that probably shakes out. But I don't know. It's probably worth it. You get the best punter in the draft. Sorry, Reza. And he's going to punt for you, obviously, and he's going to have to hold for you because, like you said, Cook probably done, and that's okay. He's maybe a Hall of Fame level punter, to be honest. If Ray Guy got in, he might have a chance at it. He won a Super Bowl. He had a big moment in that Super Bowl, and we'll see about that. Sam Cook, great Raven, maybe a Ring of Honor guy at the very least. And that's going to be it for him, and that's okay.
None of those. I'm just going to flatly disagree. None of those things are happening. But moving on. Akara again.
What Ring of Honor?
Huh?
Not even Ring of Honor?
No.
He was here for 20 fucking years.
I don't give a shit. He's a fucking punter.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure John Harbaugh doesn't care at all about his punter.
All right, we're gonna waste a space of Ring of Honor on a punter who hasn't been that good. He's never been an all. Has he ever? He's never been an all pro. He's never been an all pro punter. He's 0 all pros. He did have a cool moment in the Super Bowl, and he hasn't been good in 3 years secretly.
Ernest fucking Biner is in there. It doesn't if you.
That's different. They did that very early. He was someone that was big in the organization early. Sam Cook was not going in the Ring of Honor. Is Matt Stover's in the Ring of Honor, right?
Yes, Sam Cook's
going
in.
Cook is not Ring of Honor.
Gonna go in.
Definitely not Hall of Fame. Not even close.
I'm telling you, he's gonna go in the Ring of Honor.
I'll take that bet. Okay. What legit adjustments does Roman need to make to take this offense to make progress? Honestly, I think they have their one-on-one guy. We talked about Bateman. You have that guy. It feels like they have all their chips stacked to the middle on Bateman right now, being that guy right now. So I think if Bateman is to miss time or something goes awry, things are very poor. They go double down on let's go get big body mismatches. They go bring in Kolar. who is certainly at worst a poor man's Mark Andrews. It feels like someone with a tall body, big catch radius, can run over the middle of the field, do those things. At times early on, there weren't as many issues with spacing. I think here's what we'll go with. We'll go with call a more rigid structure, or call your plays that have some more rigid structure at times. I think they aren't going to get as cute with some of the stack stuff and option routes and things that they trusted Hollywood and Andrews to do. And so often we see Hollywood and Andrews sitting down in the same space where one defender can take away two things. At the same time, pass offense will be better if they have a good offensive line and good tackle play. They haven't had that since Ronnie Stanley's injury. If Ronnie Stanley comes back and plays at even an above average NFL left tackle level, Morgan Moses, we know what we're getting. He's going to be an above average right tackle. And you have, a new center you're very happy with who does a lot of nice things in pass pro. Zeitler was one of the best guards in football last year, and you've got a lot of young guys fighting for that left guard spot. I think all of those things combine to be a nice little situation. I think the one thing they're still definitely lacking is guys that can make plays after the catch. I still am waiting for Duvernay, and was getting into it on Twitter a little bit about this. Like, he is an all-pro returner, but we have never seen him do anything after the catch that you think an all-pro returner would do on a football field. So still waiting on him to make some plays in that sense and some of those things, but I guess just less option routes. That's my thing. If you want to have more consistent spacing. And I think just having a freaking healthy offseason, healthy August, healthy training camp, quiet training camp. You're not the shiny new thing anymore. The national media doesn't give a shit about the Ravens anymore. They only got 3 primetime games. There's not that threat of COVID. We'll knock on wood just to be safe, but there's not that threat of COVID. And if you can get away without having a bunch of injuries, and Hollywood's injured, and Bateman's injured, and Sammy Watkins is injured, Lamar misses the first 10 days, all of those things, I think combinations of those things can all help a little bit. I think, we can get into more about the pass game. I think a lot of it is hyperbolic and gone a little bit too insane. But at the end of the day, they need Rashad Bateman to be him. They need guys to get spacing right. Roman needs to maybe tighten the calls a little bit so that there's less freedom at times. He's a huge playbook. I've seen his playbook, and at least the San Francisco version, which has a lot of the same stuff. It needs to tighten up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be made better by this offensive line. I mean, and people talk about like the usage of the wide receivers, and it's like, oh, why don't they use X player like Debo? And it's like, well, guys, like, first of all, he's not that. And second of all, part of what Debo does is like reliant on other players. You look at Mike McDaniel talking about the importance of blocking in that Shanahan scheme, not just from offensive linemen, but from tight ends, from wide receivers. And, some guys weren't necessarily doing that. The offensive line was not capable of that last year. So you got talent in there, which is kind of an argument we've been making for a long time, that you just needed to be more talented. I was saying that when they were like 3-1, I remember at one point, and it just, obviously it fell apart for a lot of different reasons, but they are much better in those spots, to your point. So I think just kind of by law of, like I keep saying, by law of just things sort of bouncing back and water finding its level, I think there are going to be some natural improvements.
Definitely. And the other thing is, like, looking back to last year where, the passing game did do some nice things early on, but it gets to the point where the offensive line is so bad that you're having Latavius Murray and Tomlinson or Ricard or whoever line up as like wings attached to your offensive line so that you have 7-man protection in like known passing downs, because you are so worried about pressure looks and you're so worried about the inability of your tackles to consistently make plays. I mean, you have Tyree Phillips playing right tackle and Alejandro Villanueva playing left tackle. And honestly, I will say, I went back and just was watching a couple games, was watching some Mark Andrews, like scrolling through the first couple games of the year. Villanueva was even worse than I thought. And I think I was like maybe biased and like thought it was an okay move that they made. So I was trying to like look at the silver linings of it.
When you're in the moment, you talk yourself into stuff, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
Names
right. And now I'm removed from it. I don't care. And I went back, especially that Lions game. That was like one of the, I think like 2.5 games I watched the other day. Every other play, I mean, could not anchor. He was playing so high. His feet are getting lifted off the ground into the pocket. So that is going, any modicum of good tackle play or above average tackle play, if they can get some continuity, God forbid, like, what do you hear every single offensive line coach talk about being the most important factor? Continuity, understanding what's going to happen with the guys next to you. So having that's the good thing, hopefully, about Linderbaum. Hopefully should be that guy for 5 years, him and Zeitler for at least this year and next year, and maybe Moses into Filele, and then hopefully Ronnie Stanley comes back. So any modicum of continuity should do wonders for their pass game along the offensive line.
Absolutely.
Moving on, let's see. B-Rose, which 2022 UDFA do you think has the best chance to become a quality starter? I don't really have. I'm going to try not to get into this that much this year. It's not worth it. Once preseason happens, we'll see who starts to emerge. I'm sure of all those big body wide receivers they brought in like 4 Polk and the Williams out of Oregon and those guys. I'm sure those guys will all have a legit shot to go be a jump ball kind of big boy on the outside. And the one I like is Zacoby McClain from Auburn. Definitely really liked him at Auburn a lot. Surprised he wasn't drafted, and hopefully he's able to make his way in. He's a smaller guy, but he doesn't appear small. His frame isn't small, and the way he plays isn't small. Great block deconstruction, a little bit of a stiff player at times, but seemed to be smart in his drops and stuff like that. So don't really want to get into it too much this year. I think I'm going to stay away from that whole thing, but those are the guys that I think, probably have a shot.
They very sneakily picked up my guy, Jeremiah Moon, which I like a lot.
They did get your guy, Jeremiah Moon. That's true.
Yeah, a little bit of a tweener for sure. He's going to need to really, really have to work his way into a more specialized role, I think, and really get into that special teams rotation. But I think he's going to be very willing to do that. I think he can make the roster.
That's a great call. I completely forgot about him. Liked him a lot too. Was honestly very surprised he didn't get drafted. Does have a nice skill set. All of those things. So maybe one of those linebackers, Moon or McClain. Dank Speed. That's a sick name. Any trade predictions prior to the season starting? I don't know. But let's skip that one. And anything. This is Ravi Zirin. Who gets more receiving yards, Duvernay or Likely? Gonna go with Duvernay. Pretty decidedly. I think Likely probably can catch, 10, 15, maybe 20 balls. But working in a room with Kolar and Boyle and Andrews, all of those things, I think he can have a nice role, do some interesting things. But Duvernay is going to be a real receiver on this team. Made a lot of improvements in kind of being able to be laterally twitchy in his route running slants and running some quick hitting type stuff. I think we're going to see Duvernay catch, as things stand, 40, 50 balls in this offense, be a 500, maybe a 600-yard guy, if not more. I'm excited for Duvernay this year.
Yeah, he caught 33 on 47 targets last year, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, one of them the insane one against the Vikings. So, I think we don't rag on him a little bit, but we like to set expectations with the fact that he's just a very upright kind of linear athlete. But I don't know, he is a pro football player to the point that we say a lot, like the guy belongs on an NFL field. He belongs in a consistent wide receiving rotation. And he can make plays after the catch if you set him up correctly, but he is just that very much that bullet bill, like just, sand in the pants, like move forward type guy. He's not really like that going to make you miss type guy. So a little bit better usage, a little bit more targets. And yeah, I would be excited for him as well.
Want to see him hold down that right trigger and punch it. Like use that speed, attack, lower the shoulder, do whatever, man. Punch it. It's time. All pro returner would love to see him look like one on the offensive side.
Look like you did on the Grant Delpit play.
Exactly. Nico Laferrera, 98. Been a while. Love to see you, Nico. Pros and cons of the current wide receiver room. Bateman's going to get a chance to prove that he's him. Prochet is a very high concentration, high competitor. Like, I don't know if there's anyone more competitive at the catch point and trying to make ridiculous catches and focus wise and hands wise. And I watched that Detroit game, had a really nice play. It was a right read for Jackson. Pocket, obviously, as I'm talking about, Villanueva breaks down. Jackson rolls to his right. Duvernay fucking books it all the way from the opposite hash to the sideline. Toe drags on the other side. So excited about his level of competition that he'll bring. Think he can be more, think about things after the catch a little less. Saw a couple times last year is kind of like thinking too much after the catch. Just go for it. Not a great separator, but a really smart receiver. And the thing I think that gets lost a lot, and this pertains to the receiver room, is like they see more zone type looks than any team in the NFL because of Lamar and what Lamar can do with his legs. So being smart is a huge part of it. I think Prochet is a smart guy. I think Duvernay is a smart guy in terms of sitting down at the right spots or decelerating and slowing up so that you can create a throwing window, some of those things. And then Tylan Wallace, man, I mean, real wild card. Jake, you loved him. I definitely liked him a lot at Oklahoma State. Saw some nice moments from him last year for sure. Worked his way into the lineup pretty solidly. I think he started one game against somebody pretty late in the year.
It was an NC game where I think it was his only catch of the year because I think he had one and then it got ruled back. And I think he made the catch on like 3rd and long against the Bengals.
He had like a nice little broke a tackle or two or something.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he came out with a starting offense late in the season and had like the whole first drive. So he's a guy that can, play outside, play some Z for you, play inside, do some things. Think he can go win vertically, contested catch guy. Definitely was a borderline first round guy before injury. Would like to see him recover some of that, hopefully, now that he's had quite some time since that injury, and they can seriously be a real wild card. So those guys, definitely excited to see what they can do. Benjamin Richter, a guy they seem to like and has really nice body control. So I think those are the pros of the room. The cons is that Bateman is probably the only guy that's a real separator that can beat press on the outside and be, a balanced 3-level receiver in this offense. So they're not deep enough. They don't have enough outside type bodies. There's a lot of talk about, likely doing some of that stuff and doing some of those roles. And he probably could. I think he's pretty sudden from what I saw at Coastal Carolina and has some good ball skills. But I would be remiss to think they're not bringing in a Fuller or Jones or some other veteran or making some small trade or something for someone similar to Sammy Watkins or whatever it may be to try and round the room out a little bit. So depth is a major issue, and lack of kind of perimeter skill set, definitely an issue.
Yeah, I think we talked about the redundancy thing with Jarvis Landry. Well, you're still redundant. You just didn't add him. So you got two guys in Wallace and Prochet who are pretty similar. And then obviously Duvernay and Bateman, a little bit of different skill sets there, but Duvernay is kind of reminds me of the other two guys a little bit. And it's just like, you lose Miles Boykin. It's not as much of like a net loss, but like you didn't gain anything in return. So it's like, what's going on with that? Just a lack of biodiversity here, to use an intelligent term. And hopefully you can add some. Hopefully you can add some speed, if not in the Julio Jones kind of bigger target mold. So they're going to need to make an addition there is the con. But I do like these guys. I mean, I went back and watched Wallace a little bit at Oklahoma State last week. And it just, again, to use the term pro, that's what he is. Good footwork. I don't know how long his arms are, but they look long. Like he has the ability to really kind of swipe at guys and get himself off of contact pretty good. And the contested catch sort of Madden trait is there. He uses it pretty well and plays above the rim. So yeah, he's really fun, and excited to see if he can come back a little bit quicker and a little bit more explosive. That would separate him a bit from Prochet in my book. I think they looked kind of similar last year, so that's what I'm looking for from him.
They still have Jalen Moore, I think, too. They seem to like him. I don't know. He could catch a couple passes in a game. But yeah, need to make some additions there, whatever. K-Brick 2, what is one vet free agent you would try to pursue any position? Like I said, I think they'll bring Houston back. You can absolutely talk me into 8 games of Will Fuller, and dishing him out towards the back end of a season would be fantastic. Other than that, I mean, nothing too crazy out there. You could talk me into a Clowney, I guess, but nothing crazy right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say Clowney. They're gonna add a wide receiver, so that's just gonna happen. Like I know everyone's sort of Majora's Mask day 3 doom and gloom on this thing, but it's gonna happen. So we can just kind of brush that to the side almost. And I would say Clowney, just for the fact that they're gonna add a wide receiver. So I would be most interested in Clowney. I don't know about the attitude fit there. I'm not saying he has a bad attitude, but it feels like he might be a little bit of a not as much of a hardball type personality, which has its benefits and its detractions, I think. And that's, a conversation for another podcast probably. But yeah, Marshall's saying Bradbury in the comments. I mean, that would be expensive, but an ideal move as well. Some good options out there still on May 16th.
Yeah, I definitely think a corner of some sort would be interesting as well. Justin Tolston, could Isaiah Likely be a legit option in our offense? I think people are really excited about Likely. And I actually know Sports Info Solutions had him as their number 1 tight end. I was reading their report the other day that they did. They had him as the 44th ranked player in the draft, actually. So I thought that was interesting. But super productive. I think, can be a real chess piece moving all around. And, that Hayden Hurst role a little bit and using him as that guy, maybe he takes some snaps away from Pat Ricard in situations and turns into more of a threat in those outlet passes and those flat passes and some stuff underneath. So definitely, I think him and Kolar are going to be big-time red zone threats, man. They've got so many big bodies. Bateman, Andrews, Kolar, even Boyle can do a little bit of damage there. Likely, that's some big heads down there. So I think they're going to be able to do some damage there. in the end, and excited to see what Likely can do. He seems like a guy that has some runaway speed to him to a degree and can go make some plays. I think he's able to fill that kind of Josh Oliver type thing more than he's what we hope Josh Oliver could do, I think.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of that. I can see not as much as in the blocking, but like as a receiver, I get some Delaney Walker vibes, which I like a lot. So yeah, he's an exciting player, man. I haven't watched a ton of his, but I like him a lot, and I do like the sort of the juxtaposition against Kohler, who is kind of that taller guy. So
the more classic kind of split out, yeah. And I feel like Kohler's great Andrews insurance, and having both of them on the field will definitely be fun too. Boss Hoss 00, will the new DC's simplified scheme result in more sacks? And he also asked, is Hayes a viable edge option? I think we're really excited for Hayes. We just want to see him stay healthy. Heard some rumblings that they wanted him to, be more aggressive and attack being a professional, just a little more confidence overall too. Some things like that. But yeah, I think Hayes was someone I was really excited about last year. Fits that Sam skill set. If he's in a healthier state, can do a lot of things similarly to Tyus Bowser. I think people are completely unaware of how sick he was in coverage at Notre Dame and how sick he was in coverage at the Senior Bowl, and can really move with tight ends and running backs a little bit. Has some flexibility as a pass rusher, was a definite big-time run defender at Notre Dame, all of those things. But he has not stayed healthy in like 5 out of the last 6 years. He has missed like significant time over and over and over again. But going to more of the first question, will McDonald's scheme result in more sacks? I think so. And I think Martindale's philosophy was a little bit more so like that pressure and free blitzers lead to getting the ball out quicker and getting the ball thrown underneath more. And it just led to absolute garbage last year with the depleted secondary and some miscommunications and things. But yeah, I mean, they haven't had sacks very often in the last 2 years, really. So I think, yeah, it does lead to more sacks.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly hope so. It feels like you can't go much further down from where they were at.
Right. So I think McDonald makes quarterbacks hold the ball a little more and is a little bit more one-on-one matchup reliant for pass rushers. McDonald did run cover 0 at Michigan. I think he ran it the most in the Big Ten and the most of any Power 5 school, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere very close to it. I think he did it like 40 times at Michigan, which is a lot. So going to be funny to see if that pops back out. That was the sore subject last year. A lot of people did not like. Ryan J. Laurie, Jake cracks a beer on the golf course, but instead of a beer, it releases a genie. What are your wishes, Jake?
How many do I get?
3. It's a genie. You always get 3.
Well, then I'm going to wish that I have infinite wishes and then just live my life in the lap of luxury. That's what you always do. If you get the wishes, you wish for more wishes. Everyone knows that.
Boo. I hated that. Could have had so much more fun. Sorry, Ryan. Jake sucks.
No,
Dane Young.
He asked for both of ours.
No, he said Jake cracks a beer.
Okay, fine.
You're the one who cracked it. You're the one who gets the genie. I don't get the genie. That's not how it works.
Okay, my wishes.
Whatever. Take your unlimited wishes and whatever. You couldn't just give us 3. Record predictions. I don't know. I kind of liked what Bobby said, like 9-8. I'm 10-7, 11-6.
I said 12-5.
You're feeling good. Leaf Mama. Who's your favorite free agent? We already talked about that. G Fritz 410-801 asked 35 questions. What time is the live stream? 8:45. Who's the ideal replacement for Roman? I don't know. I think that goes to a Harbaugh question more so. And I think a lot of what we blame on Roman is a lot of what Harbaugh is maybe the mastermind of wanting. And
at the very least,
as long as Harbaugh has been the Ravens head coach, what have they wanted to do? Run the ball and throw deep with play action. And we've seen that in 5 different iterations. We've seen the Cam Cameron version. We've seen the Kubiak version. We've seen the horrible Mark Trestman version. We've seen the Marty Morenweg version and the Greg Roman version. Run the ball, play action, throw the deep ball.
At the very least, he's hanging on to him, which is a tacit acknowledgement that that's what he wants to do. So get used to it because that's what John wants. And John is still a great coach.
I think if there's a head coaching change, we'll see something different. G Fritz gave us a lovely compliment. You guys are the perfect balance of fans and analysts. Thank you. Thank you, G Fritz.
Thank you, G Fritz.
How much trouble are the Ravens in if another team signs Houston? I would like to have Houston, but I'm not going to be freaking out if they don't have Houston. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about your best sack production, I think, from last year, so that's kind of worrying. But at the same time, like, I don't think they're expecting that from him this year necessarily, especially with Ojabo coming back halfway through the year, ideally. So yeah, that would kind of suck. But like, you still got, to our point, Clowney out there. So I mean, if a team like, I think I saw somebody like throw the Chiefs out there. Like, what if the Chiefs were to go and get Houston? It's like, well, why wouldn't they just like sign Clowney or do something like that? Because they missed out on Melvin Ingram. Like, I think they would be fine to like go.
Justin Houston is just like one of the most disrespected players who's always played well. I don't know why people don't want to sign him or have that much.
I just think
I think it's because he's like, it feels like he's like 38, but he's only like 33.
He does. He feels old, and he's always been. He wasn't second fiddle to Tom Bahali at all, but like they were both kind of on equal planes. So like people were just like, oh, Justin Houston and Tom Bahali, and then like, it feels like he was never sort of. He had the 1 year where he went absolutely nuts and he had like 20 sacks, but other than that, just been a very solid, awesome player, but like nothing flashy.
I don't know. It's very weird, and I think he was one of the Ravens' best defenders last year for sure. Zach asked, when is Adley coming up? I don't know, Zeej. I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I think I said like June 16th or something of the sort. I think it's way further out than people realize, and I think people want it because they just want it, but I think they want to like let Adley be a professional at Norfolk for a little while and never bring him back down. Like, they want him good to go, full-time catcher. I think he has caught like 4 out of the last 5 games or something. And you get him in that full groove of being a full-fledged pro, full workload, all of the simulated pressure in Norfolk. You bring him up and you never have to string him along ever again. So I think they want to really lock it down. I think it's going to be another month.
Yeah, they can't send him back down. That's a fucking disaster. So like, I was clamoring for it. I actually bought tickets to tonight and I just wound up not using them because I just had other shit going on. And like, if he had made his debut tonight, I would have been there, but it just, the tea leaves, they were pretty easy to read after a certain point. And yeah, I think it's probably going to be sooner than that. A lot of people are pointing to this Friday game, this Orioles 30th anniversary thing versus the Rays. Maybe it's going to be that. That would be sick if they were to do it on a Friday night, 7:05. Everyone can get out there. Nobody has work the next day, or people will have work the next day.
I think they don't give a shit about any of that.
They really seem to not, but like, I'm just saying that would be ideal for me.
That would be ideal. I think they have their own timeline and has nothing to do with anything that we think it does. I feel like, I don't know.
If they start to lose like juice though, like they've been on a pretty good run recently. They've lost a couple games.
They're very injured. They're very injured right now.
Yeah, but they had been on a good run. So they were like, okay, we don't have to worry about this conversation. Now they're starting to dip a little bit, and it's like, it's going to start ramping up. So Hyde is going to have to get in asses and make sure they keep like winning games by the hairs of their chinny chin chin, because that is a PR, not a nightmare, but it's a PR situation you're going to have to worry about.
It's all right. Summer of Adley, summer of Grayson, maybe too. I think Grayson, maybe July, August. We'll see. That's the thing. Those guys are still pitching like 4 or 5 innings max too.
Well, Grayson took like 7 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. But DL is still coming off injury. Whatever. I don't know. I think it's a little further along than we think it is ultimately, but we shall see. Grand H2 early UDFA roster pick. We went through that. I am Jay Richter. Do you think making positions valued / devalued is pointless? And then he said, part 2, isn't a weakness regardless of position? Yeah, I don't know. We could go on for 30 minutes on that, I think, or we could go on for 5 minutes on that. It's an interesting conversation. I will say, I do think it's different for every single team. Like, what you can have a UDFA come do for you versus what you can have, high paid player do. Like, it's certain positions. For some teams, it might be safety. For some teams, it might be your nose tackle or your, 3 tech. For some teams, it might be tight end. They don't really ever invest in tight end. So I think it's just interpreted differently by everyone.
Yeah, I just don't care. We're going to move on to the next question.
There we go. Is Malik Harrison going to play some defensive end? Cody Rolls asked. He already did. I think he played like 80 or 90-ish snaps of Sam. I think, especially with Bowser coming off of injury, obviously Ojabo, Houston is an older player. Hayes, some question marks. I think you put Malik Harrison down at outside linebacker on like first, second down, mainly first down, especially if like teams using like 12 personnel or 21, 22, whatever, like heavier-ish personnel, because he's just has violent hands. He stacks really well. I think he can hold the edge for you and make plays against the run. And I don't think they're ever going to be like, all right, go rush the passer 16 times on third down in this game. But I think he'll get the rotation first down and some looks for sure. Play a little bit of inside linebacker. And man, I mean, I really loved Malik Harrison. He got a second round grade on him and went a little awry, had some nice plays his rookie year, obviously fizzled out a little last year. And then the really messed up situation that luckily didn't end up being as bad as it could have been with him being shot. Jesus, that just like, that was the craziest thing ever. How it just like two or three, the NFL has been so crazy lately, like 2 or 3 other insane things happened that day. And it was like, oh yeah, by the way, also Ravens linebacker was shot. Like if you're watching NFL live, it was like something that like 10 years ago would have been on the news cycle. I feel like for like 3 days of how crazy it was.
Yeah. I think SNL probably opened with Plaxico like 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it could have been something like that, but thankfully he was okay and it was not.
Well said. Jay Richter, how can the Ravens revolutionize offense even more? I don't think they've really revolutionized offense. Like they just, did some things that were more advanced at the college level and used a really wide variety of run game. I don't think anything they've done is revolutionary other than just like rushing output. Like their volume stats and efficiency was really spectacular for a running team. And Lamar is the most dynamic running quarterback of all time, far and away. So,
start to just get absolutely nuts with multiple tight end formations, and they already kind of do, but like start running like 3 tight ends, get 4 on the field.
4 tight end, 1 back, 4 tight ends, and do that like 13, 15 times a game.
Yeah.
And you throw the ball 8 times out of it.
You drafted these 2 guys that look good. I'm not even like kidding here. Like you drafted 2 guys that look good, are ready to go. You got Mark Andrews, Nick Boyle's hopefully going to come back to form this year. Like you got the personnel, you got a fullback who is ostensibly also a tight end. Like get weird with this shit. Lean into like the wide receivers don't want to come to Baltimore shit. Like just get fucking nuts with it. And like get in the Walter White meth lab, Greg.
They start wearing t-shirts that say like, fuck them receivers.
Yeah. Get out of the vault and go get yourself an RV and drive out to, just Texarkana and just start cooking some shit up in that Winnebago of yours. And let's have some fun. That's what I want to see.
I mean, they're going to if Boyle's healthy, they will throw the ball with those 4 on the football field, likely Kolar, Boyle, Andrews.
You drafted a center who gets miles downfield in the run game. You got a right tackle who's going to be good. You got a right tackle who you can bring in on jumbo packages, who is like as tall as the fucking Empire State Building and cannot be gotten around. Like have some fun here. Like that's what I want to see.
Falele scored touchdowns in college.
In multiple ways. Like he got thrown to, he got given the ball. Like
he threw one, he ran one, and he caught one. I think. Yeah, I think one of them was in like spring practice, but nonetheless.
Exactly. Yeah, like you drafted all these guys. It screams to me that like they're leaning into this thing a little bit, and I kind of like it. I know everyone's freaking out in some respects.
It is fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's different. They're not trying to do what the other teams are doing, because if they're all doing it, then a lot of them are probably going to fail, and they're just like, yeah, we're just going to do our own thing. It's kind of cool.
To quote Nicolas Cage, I'm not going to do what everybody else thinks I'm going to do and freak out. No. But yeah, I think that would be fun, and it's like there's the immense pressure of like have to win a Super Bowl, but it's like let's just have fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Don't use 15 tight ends at once. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Giggletard. Jesus. If you that's a great one. If you could redo one draft pick, what would you do it with? I feel like it's going to be easy in hindsight to say like it could be like a Jabo, never really, can't get past the injury or something. Could definitely say that one. I think the other conversations are like Hamilton versus like a Burks, or maybe like Linderbaum versus Kyer Elam. The Bills trade up, take Elam, you trade back, take Linderbaum. I don't know. I love the Ojabo pick. I loved the Travis Jones pick. I honestly liked what they did in the 4th round. You can talk about, taking Calvin Austin or whatever. Sure.
That's my answer. It would be, Calvin Austin over Jordan Stout, but like, whatever.
That's fine.
I loved everything else they did. Like,
Yeah, Calvin. I mean, and yeah, with, everybody's talked about Calvin Austin. He did have a great Senior Bowl. He was a fun player for sure. Yeah, Classy Fresh. How will the Ravens line up to get all of their DB talent on the field? I think they just really have matchup fluidity and are going to be able to go week to week picking matchups they like. And Peters versus Humphrey, two different style corners. Humphrey, the get within handshake range, breathe your air in, press you, be violent, lose, win, fight, be sloppy. Corner. Peters going to be the more technical, off coverage, soft shoe guy that likes to keep his eyes towards the quarterback and use his length and actually go, pick balls off. Then you've got Hamilton, who has all the length in the world to go match up on tight ends and do a lot of that. We'll see what happens with Chuck Clark. Brandon Stevens in the nickel is going to be being able to maybe go put Humphrey in one slot and Stevens in the other is like two fucking banshees that you can line up and go blitz or play the run or blow up screens. Like those dudes can run and hit and are violent. And I'm really excited to see what those guys can do in the slot as well. So I don't know. You can do anything. You can put them up anywhere in any kind. You can play a ton of dime one game. You can use Hamilton on a certain tight end a ton. You can use Stevens on another. You can be dropping Stevens in the middle third and Marcus Williams, doing all kinds of other crazy stuff. I don't know. You can literally do anything. They have so much room. Boundary corner, maybe a little more hamstrung than other areas, but I would be remiss to think Jefferson doesn't get on the field a bit and Stone doesn't get on the field a little bit. So they're going to reward guys for what they do during the week and during the offseason and get them on the football field.
Yeah, dominate that middle of the field. They have a lot of options there. It's a little concerning at boundary, to your point, but they're multiple.
Definitely. So that does it for IG as well. So we can pull up the Twitter. We got a couple in the comments here. Stanley, Cleveland, Linderbaum, Zeitler, Tyree Phillips, Falele, Ricard, Ben Mason, Andrews, Boyle. And then just have Lamar run the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what did that do last year? It won them the game against Kansas City. And, it's done that for them at times in the past. So go all in on this thing. I like it. All right. From Twitter, our boy, Zeeg Batman, Baltimore Beatdown contributor, says, did somebody say wide receivers? Just kidding. Oh, you silly goose. What roles? Okay, so we kind of just answered this a little bit, but he says, what roles do you see guys like Stevens, Stone, Washington, and Jalen Armour Davis carving out for themselves?
I feel like Washington is kind of the odd man out. Not sure he makes the team to start the year pending injury situations and things, but I don't know. I feel like Armour Davis gets on the field when you want to have Humphrey in the slot, especially at first, and if everyone's healthy. Again, Stevens, nickel plus can be kind of on that vertical plane of edge, nickel overhang, star into safety, and can drop all the way back as a nice clean back pedal and is experiencing safety a little bit there as well. So we did touch on it a bunch, but yeah, I'm very excited for Stevens. Very, very, very excited for Stevens, especially with him getting a little bit of trial by fire towards the end of the year last year. And now being able to pick and choose spots where he feels really confident and you feel really confident in him, I think is going to be like a high snap to impact play ratio from Brandon Stevens.
Yeah, my sort of bird's eye view take on him is I'm getting some Lardarius Webb vibes. A little bit of a surprising mid-round pick out of a smaller school, or not. SMU's not small, obviously, but
he just kind of like fell through the cracks a little bit.
Unexpected, but
went higher than people thought.
Yeah, but right away, just kind of worked himself into a role as a solid player, and they're excited about him. So, Festivus Maximus. Do you think it's possible EDC is eyeing 2023 as the all-in year? Spence mentioned this on a pre-draft pod. Between injury recovery, all the draft picks, questions about young wide receivers, Lamar contract, the rest of AFC loading for this year heavily, seems like this might make sense. I think it makes sense on paper. I'm getting to a point where, and I've said that I've been saying a couple years, oh, maybe next year, maybe that year, maybe I don't think it's coming. I think we're just sitting around sort of waiting for Dutch, waiting for Godot here to come in and then it's going to be the all in year. Then and it's just in the way that the other teams kick the can down the road, we're kicking the can of expectations down the road. At least I am, and saying this year it's fine to play a conservative, but the next year it's then they go on. It's I don't think it's coming, and I think that's fine. This is just who they are. They're going to do the anti-Voss thing. They're just going to try to compete, try to get to, he says, wild card. I think they aim a little bit higher than that, obviously, but they want to be in the mix, and they want to be relatively conservative, and they just want to do the smart things, the small things correct every single year. I don't see them really mortgaging an off season to go all in. They're going to make moves in season to go all in when they feel the time is right, as they've done in the past. They haven't worked out to the point where they're going to win you the Super Bowl, so you can maybe question the results on it. But I don't know. I just think that's their process, and they're going to stick to it. I don't think the all-in year is coming. Sorry to anyone who's hearing that. Then
I mean, they went out and traded for Peters at the trade deadline while they won 12 straight games. That was it to a degree, and they didn't see that Titans game incoming. They thought they were going to ride the rocket ship the way the Chiefs just had, and did. So yeah, I think there's. You everything you hit on for sure, and just with Lamar, the amount of uncertainty that there is, to go all in when you don't have that would kind of go against everything they've always done as an organization. They do want to compete every single year. They don't have that certainty. They're not going to be willing to go dish out a bunch of money and spend a bunch of draft capital to not have a quarterback that they're confident in potentially next year or the year after. So until that's settled, I really am just not confident in any of that stuff. And exactly, I mean, they make long-term moves only, really, unless it's low cost, unless it's a 5th-round pick for a player they would have wanted anyway. They can play for multiple years, like Calais Campbell. They got Ngakoue at the trade deadline, and guess what? Ronnie Stanley broke his ankle, and that could have been a much better shot with just Ronnie Stanley that season. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head, definitely. And I don't know. I mean, like, the Dolphins are going all in, and the Raiders and these teams, and it's like exactly.
Guess what's going to happen? It's not going to work out for most of them.
Exactly. So
it's not even close to work out for some of these teams. Like, some of these teams are going to get left in the fucking dust. And like, I'm not saying that like that makes it right that the Ravens don't go all in. But that's the way that they look at it, and I'm frankly okay with it. Like, I'm okay with their strategy. So all the hand wringing about it, I'm fine with it.
They have played one game in the last 6 seasons that didn't have playoff implications for them. I think it was 2017, week 17.
Oh, that's you. That's what you aim for? I want a Super Bowl. Festivus Maximus. Why does everyone think 2 veteran, all caps, free agent wide receivers, not caps anymore, who won't even be active for 20% of games due to injuries, are going to move the needle for this team? Sorry that is a leading question, but please offer a sane take on the wide receiver debate if you're not sick of it already. I mean, I wanted Landry like pretty badly. I thought that was the move to make. I thought he was a guy who would fit the organization culturally. I thought he would fit as a player for what they're trying to do. A little bit redundant to your point, but it felt like fit like a glove, and it felt like a long-term move too. Like with these other guys, I feel like I'm getting 1-year vibes. I felt like he could have stuck around and retired here. So I was a little disappointed to see them miss out on him. I'm over that. And yeah,
none of them are good. Like, if you want to talk advanced metrics, the wins above replacement of them, how much above average they are to a Tylan Wallace or to a James Prochet is nominal. It is not a big deal. It's like what I will say about Landry is I got my metrics over here, and it's that he has that dog in him. He does have that. And that's the thing. Landry does have that dog in him. And that's why he was the one of this pool that made sense. And like, I talk myself into Will Fuller, like what the role could be and all those things.
To be clear,
probably never going to like play again.
To be clear, I'm going to talk myself into whoever they sign, by the way, too.
Yeah, Will Fuller, Julio Jones, the odds that, like, I'm fine with putting money that they will never play 8 games in a season again. Like, I would be fine with that at this point. There's a reason that they are not getting what they want. There's a reason they are in the situation that they are in.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's you're kind of just picking your poison a little bit with these guys at this point, and maybe you get a good season out of Julio. I think to the point when they were like in the mix to maybe trade for him around this time last year, I was excited about the idea of it because he had played well in 2020 and he had just had the injury and like missed half the year.
He was good last year. I swear to God, he was good last year.
I believe it. I didn't watch a second of him because the Titans are just a boring, just slog through the mud. Even though they were a 1 seed, it was just like, God, these guys are just not my cup of tea. But yeah, he wasn't really a big part of that, stats wise at least. But maybe you bank on him getting healthy. He plays 13 games for you and he plays well. I could see that, potentially happening, especially with the fact that he's not going to be overly relied on. You got Andrews to eat up some of that target share. You drafted these young tight ends to the point. Bateman's going to get some run. Duvernay's going to get some run. These other guys are going to have to as well. So it might be a good situation for him. Ben Rose, do Bateman or Duvernay have the ability to be a field stretcher? Who do you predict will seize the role of slot corner?
You get started with that because I'm going to try to look something up about Duvernay.
I think Duvernay has the ability to be a field stretcher in the role of a decoy. I think he's a clear out guy where it's just like, okay, here's a guy who's playing a little bit off you. Al, here's a guy, he's playing a little bit off you, and you don't have to do much. You don't have to beat him off release. You don't have to get into an arm swiping battle with him. You just get on his hip and run past him and make him worry about you and clear out space for Andrews. I think he could be good in that role, and I don't think he's necessarily being used in it a ton. So that could be good. And then he's made deep plays weirdly on broken plays in his career. I remember one long catch against the Steelers, which was pretty sick. And yeah, he's just he's a guy who, we've made the point ad nauseum that he's not going to be beating guys one-on-one a ton, but if you get him in space, which Roman has shown an ability to do, he could be dangerous at the catch. So deep strike, deep threat in the sense of Hollywood Brown 9 route, just one-on-one, make a contested catch. I don't necessarily think so, but plays of 20 plus yards down the field, if you can get him open on an intermediate kind of shot and get the ball in his hands, I think he could be a threat in that respect. I think Bateman could be too. I think we saw it last year. I think he can kind of beat guys one-on-one. I think he can win in the phone booth like he did against the Browns on that one catch when he just went sicko mode in that second half with Huntley at quarterback. So yeah, there's my answer to that. And then slot corner, Brandon Stevens to start the year is my prediction.
So Devin Duvernay, 2020 was a rookie. Wait.
Yes.
2020 was a rookie. Yeah. So 2 seasons of Devin Duvernay. How many catchable passes over 20 yards in air yards do you think Devin Duvernay has had thrown to him in his career?
6.
1.
Did he catch
one catchable pass over 20 yards in the air thrown to him? He has been targeted over 20 yards 4 fucking times so far.
He caught that against the Steelers too, didn't he? That was the
39 yard catch, 37 air yards. Insane. So you can blame whoever you want. You can blame me. You can blame Roman. You can blame Lamar. You can blame the line. You can blame any. How is that possible? I just don't know why we haven't gotten enough opportunities to answer questions about him. For reference, Marquise Brown had 25 and 28. Andrews had 19 and 9. Bateman had 8. Watkins had 10. So, Miles Boykin had 5 in 2020. So it's just, I would love to see what Devin Duvernay can do if you throw him the ball deep. I just don't know. Bateman, the thing Bateman is proficient at is releases. He has enough gear to get it to threaten you vertically, and he stacks. He establishes his entire body ahead of your entire body so that you have to play through him to the ball, which draws PIs or just allows you to complete passes downfield. So again, we're banking on a big year from Bateman. We're almost contractually obligated. We loved him so much last year in the draft process. We're so excited. Showed some flashes, showed some awesome stuff. All of those things. Truly should be a 3-level receiver. All of those things. Matt Harmon, who is one of the best in terms of wide receiver information, wide receiver scouting, all that stuff for Yahoo Sports and does receptionperception.com. Loves Bateman. Jetpack Galileo, one of the best follows on Twitter, loves Bateman. I think Bateman's in for a huge year. I think he's in for a 1,000-yard year and some serious damage if he can stay on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravens burner. How do you politely tell your girlfriend she is gaining some weight? So for context, this is not a serious question. It is a reference to the continued misadventures of Marlon Humphrey on the website twitter.com.
Just if you need to, though, if you really felt that way, just get them pre-workout and a gym membership.
Yeah, maybe just don't
start going.
Maybe just don't do that if you want to keep your girlfriend.
Never say anything of the sort.
Never say anything, never do anything, just leave it be.
I did have a friend in college who he basically was for reference, he is about 6'4", was probably about 230. He would take some fucking D-ball. He would take like Tren, take all this stuff. He would take Tren and all this stuff, was huge, would eat like a fucking horse. Started dating a girl who was very pretty, very good shape, and she would eat everything that he ate. He would eat Nutella milkshakes after the gym and burgers, and she gained a lot of weight, and he chose to just break up with her. And he was like, there's no way I can. He was like, what will be more damaging to her? If I tell her this or if I break up with her? I think I'm just going to break up with her. So he took that one to the grave.
Yeah. I mean, listen, sounds like a real peach of a guy. And, listen, whatever.
It was a college relationship.
Oh, I hear you. Stuart Shock, which funny little follow-up here. Which Marlon Humphrey hot take do you actually agree with the most? I don't hate mac and cheese, but it's kind of just like fine. Like people like ride for mac and cheese, and I'm just like, yeah, like it's good.
I don't even what is the totality of takes? Coffee gonna do for a guy like me. Mac and cheese sucks.
Coffee is for the weak. Mac and cheese noodles is overrated. He hated Batman. We got this thing now, which I don't know.
Wild Wings and Owings Mills as bad service.
Which that's the one. He just tweeted that the other day, and we've talked about that on this very.
That's not even a take. That's just a fact.
Yeah, which so yeah. Listen, he actually tweeted something factual for once. I disagree with everything he says. Like now that I think about it, except for that. Coffee. I like mac and cheese just fine.
He just like definitely has ADHD and doesn't need to drink coffee.
Yeah, or he's just continually building his firebrand to when he joins Barstool after his playing career ends.
Just go ahead, Marlon. Just go ahead.
Jonathan Evans. Fun one. Who's going to win the annual Miles Boykin Award for most dominant practice player in training camp to ghost all real games? It's funny that he mentions Miles Boykin for that because I'm in the Jeremy Butler Memorial Studio right now. Maybe the seasons have just changed. Times have passed really on us here. Time
keeps on slipping. Let's go. Devin Williams out of Oregon, the UDFA.
He's going to be catching everything for sure. Yeah, that's probably a good one. Then he also asked, rank the seasons 1 through 4, factoring in weather, sports, holidays, etc. I'm gonna go spring 1. I love spring. I like the weather getting a little bit better. You can get out on the course a little bit. The sports are my favorite sports for sure. You got March Madness, you got golf heating up, you got the NFL draft. It's just absolutely goated. NBA is going on. MLB starts up after a certain point. It's just a great time.
Hockey's pumping.
Yeah, hockey gets rolling too as well. I watch a little bit of hockey, playoff hockey here and there. That's great. So yeah, that's just spring is absolutely goated. I'm gonna go summer 2, not for the sports, but because I get to play my favorite sport the most consistently. And then fall 3. Fall's a great season as well. That's really it's on plane with the first two. Like I kind of like all of them almost equally. And then winter is just a fucking drag. I hate winter. So it's spring 1, summer 2, fall 3 in a very close race. And then 50 feet of crap, and then winter.
Summer 1, winter 2, fall 3, spring 4 for me.
Interesting.
Love the beach. Love the warm weather. Yep. Love the snow. Love skiing. Fall is badass because of football. Jeans, t-shirt. Fall could be my one. Like those 3 are all fine. I fucking hate spring. Spring is just, especially in Maryland, spring is just muddy and rainy, and it's bipolar and depressing, and I don't like it. And it's a tease. You get cucked over and over again. It's just a tease.
It feels like summer has kind of trended in that direction the last couple of years as well. So it's hard to like really differentiate. I do love the beach as well. I'm a beach boy. Everyone knows that about me. So yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with my first 3. I don't like winter very much. I like the holidays. Like I like Thanksgiving and Christmas a lot.
Holiday season.
It's the holiday season. And then obviously I have a glass house, a white Ferrari, and I live for New Year's Eve. So that's big for me as well. But then after that, it's just kind of tough.
Incredible line there.
Yeah. I used to be a piece of shit, but I'm not anymore. People can change. Where were we? Filibustering here a little bit as I lost my place. I think we only have like 1 left. As I continue to filibuster and get into the thread. Orioles Haiku asks, When will Adley make his debut? We already talked about that. Might as well close it out with this one from Jay, who might be a new listener. Are we a wide receiver away from Super Bowl contenders?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No. Too many other question marks for me. Too many other question marks for me. A lot of guys coming off injury, new defensive coordinator, long tenured offensive coordinator. Really, a lot of it is just, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I'm going to make bold predicky. Lamar doesn't show up for OTAs. Everybody starts flipping out. And there's going to be some sort of, we think it's going to be a quiet August, and it somehow won't be. So I don't know. I think they're going to continue to beat teams any given Sunday, be a playoff level team, add a receiver in there. I don't know. I'm just tired of calling teams contenders, tired of calling them contenders, tired of it all. I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl. I don't think one player changes that. I think we vastly fucking continuously overrate one player's impact on making a team this or that when it is not. A team is the sum of all of its parts and quarterback play. So if Lamar goes Super Saiyan, doesn't matter if they have the receiver or not.
Yeah, it's just like the whole one player away thing. I don't really subscribe to that.
I mean, Von Miller very might have well been the one player that won the Rams the Super Bowl last year. He might, without him, could certainly not have done anything that they did. So at the same time, I think they still could have gotten to that point without him. So
yeah, like I think they could have probably figured it out. And especially like with the way that it ended with Aaron Donald. It's like you drafted him and developed him, and he made that play for you. And Von Miller, obviously a great player. But I don't know, like that type of move, maybe like during the season. And if it is a wide receiver, great. I just, not really seeing it right now, which, to the chagrin of many people. I just don't think it's hard for me to like put a number and say, oh, yep, now you're a contender to go win a championship. It's like, if you're at that point, I'm not sure you really were to begin with.
And the games aren't played on paper, and the games aren't played in May or June or July, but I mean, has to be the best that this conference has been in a long time. This division, we'll see what the Steelers do. Betting on them to be shitty is usually not prosperous. So tough division, tough conference.
Deshaun Watson decision coming down potentially this week.
Yeah.
So you really need to see what happens there too.
Right. I think we'll see. I feel like they can't be too light in that because they will get so much shit and have tried to avoid those, but we'll see. 4-6 games is my bet. But yeah, schedule-wise, I mean, they don't really have a murderer's row of quarterbacks, whatever, but I don't know. I don't feel the desperation, and I don't feel the locker room sort of like energy coming out of them. I don't know how to put it. I don't feel the energy coming out of Owings Mills to be that team.
I feel like there was a lot of it at this time last year, and that kind of blew up in their face a little bit. So,
and maybe by no fault of their own, but yeah, last year they were supposed to be last year I had them losing in the AFC Championship. Thought they were a serious contender.
Why we were so I think that is why we were so dialed into the draft last year. It's like they got to fucking nail this. They need to get like Bateman.
They had 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of threw all our chips on that being sort of the salve for some of their issues. And I think it was in some ways, but those injuries hit them in ways that they couldn't have expected. They get a nice safe slot there at 14. They pick another safe player up by getting rid of one of their flashier ones, and they just, go and get a bunch of just Raven type players in the mid and late rounds. So yeah, it just feels like to your point, there's not a lot of juice, but that's not always a bad thing.
Right. Well said. So I don't know. It's May. Here we are. We're in the drudging part. The schedule release is over. They've signed some human beings to go play for vet minimums. Mike Davis, Beagle, those kinds of moves. We'll see if Houston falls into line. We I think we're moratorium on wide receiver talk until they make a move or don't. I think we're about done. This has reached the Orlando Brown level. So
this is worse. Like, people are losing their collective shit over this, and it's like, it kind of sucks that, like, when you have a podcast, it kind of sucks to just say, like, I don't care and I don't want to talk about it anymore. But like, that's sort of
I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way, and I think there's more interesting things to talk about. And we'll do some game rewatches. We'll do some. You've got some evergreen stuff you're working on too, and fun stuff that way. We usually take it a little bit more chill. We'll try and have some guests on here in the coming weeks to give some outside perspective and some national kind of perspective, I guess, so to speak, and we'll roll that way as well. So I think that about does it for us. A great couple mailbags. We appreciate you guys so much. It's good to get one of these in. I think sometimes throughout the history of this podcast, we've had a couple mailbag heavy portions, and we haven't really done one in a while. So it was nice to do one. Nice to interact with you guys. Appreciate you guys. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave us 5 stars on Apple, on Spotify, on whatever else. Share this podcast with a friend. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. I think we're ready to rock and roll. And I guess this is kind of like, there'll be OTAs and whatever. This is kind of like the crescendo down into the off season.
The falling action.
Exactly. So love you guys.
We do. Follow us on social media. If you love us, you can find the show on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. You can find me at Jake Luke. That's Luque. Spencer's at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle. Thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you again later in the week, I'm sure. And until then, you stay classy.
See ya.
Arrivederci.
Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they getting? Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that.